Hello, I'm Ellen Schaller, one of the care advisors at Neuro Challenge Foundation for Parkinson's. And today we will be talking about some of the complementary therapies that are used in PD. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, so I first wanted to go over some of the manifestations about Parkinson's disease and talk about it first. So what is PD or Parkinson's disease? It is a movement disorder that can affect your ability to perform common daily activities. It's a chronic and progressive disorder of the brain and central nervous system whose symptoms can gradually worsen over time. We call it chronic because it's long-term, and progressive because it gets worse with time. It's marked by a deficiency of a chemical messenger in the brain called dopamine. And if nothing else, I want you to remember the most important thing about this presentation. Dopamine is responsible basically for two things: movement and mood. We'll talk more about that in detail. And it's also characterized most commonly by motor symptoms, but also manifests itself as non-motor symptoms as well. Let's talk about the non-motor symptoms. Some of those are sleep problems. Many people during the course of their PD journey have much trouble with sleep, either getting to sleep or they awaken often throughout the night once they are asleep. Other non-motor symptoms are depression, anxiety, apathy, and then cognitive impairments in general. And if you think about it, I said dopamine was responsible for movement. Well, with time, that movement also affects the brain function. So it slows down everything, including some of the brain functions. And I'll give you an example. I always say to people, conversation is like a rapid fire back and forth between people. And it's a quick rapid fire back and forth. And PDers, as they advance in the disease, because of this slowing down of the brain function, it just takes too much energy to converse, or also just to try to follow a conversation. So what quite often happens is they begin to withdraw or socially isolate themselves. So what used to be a fun activity to be with a number of people socially becomes a real trial for them. A good strategy for that is, instead of maybe having a full complement of people, maybe just have dinner with one or two couples and make sure that people understand the conversation needs to be slowed down a little bit in order for everyone to contribute to the conversation. The four main symptoms, and these are the classic motor symptoms of the disease, are the following. And I want to go through the note. It is important to remember that two of the four main symptoms must be present over a period of time for a neurologist to consider a PD diagnosis. So these are the classic motor symptoms that are associated with Parkinson's. A shaking or tremor. The tremor is usually one-sided. It's what we call a non-intention tremor, because as you start to elicit intention, reaching for something, kicking a ball, the tremor usually dissipates or completely goes away. But it's usually one-sided. Slowness of movement, which is called bradykinesia. And like I said, the slowness of movement is all over the body. It's not just with your arms and legs. If you think about all of the various muscles and motor activities, muscle activities throughout the body, if we start at our head, we talked about the cognitive impairments. You've got your eye movement is controlled by muscles. Your facial muscles control all kinds of movement. Your swallow is a bunch of muscles working together. Digestion, and then of course, arm and leg movement. So all of those muscular activities slow down with this disease. And that's why it's very common for PDers to have trouble with vision, with swallowing issues, and the constipation. And constipation is one thing that usually starts many years before the diagnosis of Parkinson's is even made. The third classic motor symptom is stiffness or rigidity of the arms, legs, or trunk, trouble with balance and possible falls, which is also called postural instability. It's important to remember that PD affects over 1.5 million people in the US and 10 million people around the world. In the US, 60,000 new diagnoses and 2 million physician office visits are attributed to the disease yearly. So, how does PD impact movement? Well, the connection between the intention to move and actually starting or completing an action is disrupted because levels of the dopamine are either depleted or completely or just less than normal. So dopamine is the transmitter which passes messages from the brain to the muscles. Movement may no longer be automatic, and a conscious effort may be necessary in order to initiate or execute a given action. A growing number of people with Parkinson's disease are interested in trying to improve both their motor and non-motor symptoms with therapies that are not medications. The gold standard medication from the 70s is Sinemet, which is a combination of levodopa and the carbidopa. The levodopa is the medicine part, and the carbidopa is for settling the stomach to reduce nausea with the medication. Beyond physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, all of which can play a crucial role in maximizing function in Parkinson's disease, there are also a vast array of available complementary therapies. So some of the ones that we'll talk about today are music, dance, art, and laughter. These therapies are healing practices performed in addition to standard treatments and surgical therapies with the goal of improved quality of life. It is important to remember that complementary therapies are exactly that, complementary. They are used to enhance, not to replace traditional medical and surgical therapies recommended by healthcare providers. A common misconception is that a complementary therapy designed to be used in conjunction with traditional medications and surgical therapies is not helpful until symptoms are advanced. But all of these techniques are effective at all stages of Parkinson's. And in fact, as we know, the earlier the rehabilitation is started, the better. Some other complementary therapies that will be mentioned but not covered in detail today include yoga, meditation, mindfulness, Tai Chi, and massage. These are also called alternative therapies and are intended to relieve the aspects of Parkinson's symptoms and are not a cure. They are purely for symptom management. So let's talk about the first one, music therapy. Most music therapy uses music to help with movement. This is a therapy defined broadly by the American Music Therapy Association as a treatment including creating, singing, moving to, and/or listening to music through which clients' abilities are strengthened and transferred to other areas of their lives. Music naturally drives movement, whether it is tapping your foot to the beat of the music, playing an instrument, or dancing. Music taps into our emotions in several ways. First, it improves movement, such as the natural flow and coordination that happens with dance. Second, it adds enjoyment, which can increase the release of dopamine. Third, it increases creativity and rhythm. And four, it keeps exercise fun. So there are basically two types of music therapy, active and passive. Active involves the use of the voice, so it can include speech and language therapy, instruments, and movement. So singing would be a good example of this. And singing enhances voice volume and quality. And typically in PD, those are two of the things that are very commonly lost. So PDers a lot of times have low volume and the lack of intonation. Singing also improves the muscles responsible for swallowing and breathing, and it benefits posture. And then the second type of music therapy is passive, or listening to live or recorded music. So active and passive music activities differ in the parts of the brain that are activated. Active music participation engages more parts of the brain than does just listening to the music alone. Different parts of the brain are activated when the music is self-selected as opposed to when it is chosen by the researchers. So optimizing the use of music therapy. Research indicates that people with PD and more generally older adults may gain a greater benefit from internal active versus external passive cueing techniques. Matching your movement to your own voice can better improve gait characteristics and gait variability than simply listening to the music. So let's go through the one study that was done. So the conclusion of the study was, and first of all, let me tell you, when they say mental singing refers to singing in one's head versus singing out loud. So mental singing potentially simplified the task demands and enabled more efficient movement. It may facilitate greater integration of motor, kinesthetic, and auditory imagery capabilities, hence it might be a better choice. And it also provides more benefit to gait variability than singing aloud, which makes internal cueing more practical for everyday use. So what they're saying is mental singing, which is singing in one's head, singing internally to yourself, can be much more effective than singing out loud. Let's go to dance therapy. Studies indicate that dance is an effective alternative to traditional exercise for addressing the areas of concern to individuals with PD. And it's also a lot more fun, of course. The concerns with PD are impaired balance, impaired walking, and reduced quality of life. And through dance, some of the benefits of dance are dynamic balance control and coordination. It enhances strength and/or flexibility. The rhythmic and repetitive movements help with motor symptoms. So the rhythmic and repetitive movement of dance can help with motor symptoms such as bradykinesia, gait, start hesitation, and freezing by providing a model for movement, making you think about how to move before you actually do it. It can also help train the mind to initiate and complete sequencing and patterns of movement. In time and with practice, this becomes easier, so confidence builds, which can be very helpful in everyday activities, such as maintaining a steady pace on a crowded street or keeping moving when paying at a shop checkout. Now, one of the techniques that is used is called rhythmic auditory cueing. And this helps those with PD to use rhythm to facilitate movement and improve gait. PDers attempt to synchronize their movements with an auditory cue presented by a metronome or music with a strong beat. And what they do a lot of times in therapy is a metronome. You can set a metronome, so tick, 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 tick. And what they do is they try to have the PDer walk to that beat, okay? Keep that beat in mind when they're walking, and they're finding that it's a lot more the cadence in their walking, their stride length with walking, their balance with walking is much improved. But as one of the researchers said, walking to a metronome can be very, very boring. So what they try to get people to do, and they're actually doing research with this right now, is they have the person, the PDer, suggest music that they really like that has a strong beat to it, and they try to have the person then match that beat. And with time, with practice, then they try to increase that beat. So that's what rhythmic auditory cueing is all about. Some people have found that marching music helps them to overcome freezing episodes. If your feet feel glued to the floor, singing or humming a marching tune can help get the feet moving again. And freezing, you might see it referred to in the literature as fog, F-O-G, freezing of gait. Freezing is very common with PDers as they, again, progress in the disease, and it can happen. I've heard people say it can happen with initiation of gait, or as they're walking along, all of a sudden they stop. That's what freezing is all about. And that's what they're saying, that music, if you can get, again, something playing in your head that has a beat to it, that might be able, or that might be a help to getting you out of your freezing episode. And then dance is also enjoyable and socially engaging, and it can be aerobic as well. So let's talk about some dance studies. The style of dance most prominently researched in people with PD is the tango. Tango is thought to target major functional impairments in people with Parkinson's, such as walking backward, starting and stopping gait, turning, and changing tempo. So a couple of different studies that were done on dance. The one was looking at different types of dance. So the purpose was to compare the effects of tango, waltz, foxtrot, and no intervention at all on functional motor control in individuals with PD. The scope, 58 participants with mild to moderate PD were randomly assigned to either a tango, a waltz foxtrot, or no intervention, which was the control group. So there were 3 groups. And the conclusion was that tango may target the deficits associated with PD more than the waltz foxtrot, but both dances significantly benefited balance and locomotion, whereas in comparison, the control group did not improve at all. Another study that was done was partnered versus non-partnered, and it studied the effects on balance and mobility. Both groups significantly improved on the Berg balance scale, comfortable and as fast as possible walking velocity and cadence, and improvements were maintained at a 1-month follow-up. The non-partnered class improved as much as the partnered class did. However, the partnered participants expressed more enjoyment and interest. So the bottom line to me is it doesn't matter, regardless of the dance type, balance improvement is noted with dance. That's the important thing to remember. So let's talk about art therapy. So art therapy uses art media, the creative process, and the resulting artwork to explore feelings, reconcile emotional conflicts, foster self-awareness, manage behavior and addictions, develop social skills, improve reality orientation, reduce anxiety, and increase self-esteem. Movement and motion can become more fluid when the focus shifts from physical movement itself to expression. Drawing and painting use both the right and left hemispheres of the brain, incorporating many areas of the brain not often utilized in other activities. And additionally, art therapy is enjoyable and there is no wrong stroke. Every expression is valid. Parkinson's can rob someone of control, and in art, the artist is the one in control over color, medium, and subject matter. So why art therapy? Let's talk specifically about the benefits for the Parkinson's community. It lowers blood pressure, it slows down breathing and just calms your entire central nervous system. It reduces repetitive, uncontrolled, anxious thoughts, so those non-motor symptoms. It lifts depression, and it can strengthen concentration. It is well known that vision issues can be prominent in PD. This includes difficulty with visuospatial perception, which is the ability to perceive spatial relations in the environment. Poor visuospatial skills affect depth and distance perception, as well as navigational skills, which can directly translate into difficulty with activities such as reading, driving, and even walking. As visuospatial challenges increase, so do gait dysfunction and falls. A study is currently underway exploring the effects of art therapy on visuospatial deficits. One small study investigated clay art in people with PD and showed improvements in hand dexterity, mood, and quality of life. And it was reported that working with clay resulted in satisfaction while experiencing relaxation and emotional resolution. Those with PD express improvements in cognitive thought, confidence, and social interaction, which contributes to the ongoing improvement in mental and physical well-being. Also, there is evidence that people with PD might experience an increase in creativity or even develop a new interest in creative pursuits with their diagnosis, possibly fueled by the dopaminergic medications. An increase in creativity can also accompany other neurological disorders unrelated to the dopaminergic medication. Therefore, the possibility exists that PD alone can fuel creativity, perhaps in combination with the effects of the PD medication. And just a total aside, I want to make sure I point out the picture on this slide. You might recognize someone in the slide. That's our own Linda Odom, who is from Encompass Rehabilitation Hospital here in Sarasota. And she actually does our Creative Connections class that we hold several times a month. So I always want to shout out to Linda. All right, some other complementary therapies which are encouraged for PD include Tai Chi, yoga, meditation and mindfulness, massage, and acupuncture. So let's talk about them briefly. So Tai Chi, I don't know if anyone has tried Tai Chi. It's been around a long time and originated in China 6,000 years ago. It is both an exercise and fighting system, but is now practiced as a defense against the stresses and strains of daily life. It's a coordinated, rhythmic exercise performed in a slow, relaxed manner. It is suitable for a range of abilities, ages, and strengths. And because it enhances balance and body awareness, it is believed by many to reduce the risk of falls and improve balance and confidence when walking. I don't know, again, if anyone's tried it, but when I've done it, I just did Tai Chi briefly for continuing education course myself. I found because it is so slow and so rhythmic, it is very difficult. Tai Chi can be very, very difficult to do, but you can also see why it is so important for balance and body awareness because of that slow rhythmic movement. Acupuncture. Acupuncture is a method of using thin hypodermic needles inserted into the skin at specific points across the body, following the life force in traditional Chinese medicine, with the goal of rebalancing the energy flow throughout the body. It is shown to positively influence symptoms that are often similar to those experienced by individuals with PD. Acupuncture is indicated for managing fatigue, improving mood, and regulating digestive complaints. Yoga, here's another one that's been around for a long time. It originated in India more than 5,000 years ago. It's a Hindu system of philosophy that harmonizes the body, mind, and spirit. Gentle movements, controlled breathing, medication, and visualization exercises are all part of yoga. It promotes health and inner peace, and it can be particularly helpful in reducing muscle rigidity and increasing balance, flexibility, and strength. And again, it's all about that body, mind, spirit connection, which is so important for all of us. Meditation and mindfulness. This is all about staying in the present moment, being free from distraction or judgment, being aware of your thoughts and feelings, training your mind to focus, and using breathing techniques. Mindfulness concentrates on the here and now, staying in the present moment. It is free from distraction or judgment. Again, being aware of your thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. By training your mind to be present, you can feel the benefits in your everyday life, which can be helpful when facing the challenges that PD brings. Meditation involves using breathing techniques to bring deliberate attention to one's thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations at the present moment. Several trials in people with PD show instruction in mindfulness meditation improved both their motor and non-motor symptoms of activities of daily living. And people also reported decreased pain using these two techniques. So now let's talk about my favorite, laughter. Some of the general benefits: increasing the feeling of relaxation, it increases the natural killer cells, it combats depression, it improves mood, it increases your coping mechanism, and it reduces stress. So although laughter is not considered a complementary therapy in the literature, those of us who work with the PD community appreciate the many, many positive effects of laughter. Laughter increases the feeling of relaxation, both physically and emotionally, from the release of endorphins. It also increases natural killer cells, which are a type of white blood cell that attacks cancer cells. It also combats depression, and even forced laughter releases a cocktail of hormones, neuropeptides, and dopamine that can begin to improve mood. Although the level of pain actually remains the same, the perceived pain levels are reduced, and the belief that one can cope is increased with laughter. We all need to share laughter with friends and spend more time with people who like to have fun. The ability to laugh at ourselves is also an important characteristic and way to decrease stress. Researchers are now investigating whether laughter, or in particular laughter therapy, may be an effective therapy for symptoms of PD. A recent study also shows the promise of improvisational comedy, which is unscripted, spontaneous form of comedy, in helping PDers increase their ability to focus, ease communication, and just feel good. So, in summary, song-based therapies for PD may improve voice quality, respiratory function, and swallowing function. Music-based therapies may improve socialization and may have mood and cognitive boosting benefits. Dance-based therapy for PD may help improve fluidity of movement and balance while providing aerobic activity. And any of the complementary therapies are an expression of art and a different way of expressing oneself, which can be helpful to those who are uncomfortable talking about their feelings or who have difficulty expressing themselves due to thinking or speaking problems, which are all very, very common problems in PD. Most of these complementary therapies have been formally studied in PD patients in some manner, although usually only in small groups of folks. However, it is also necessary to point out that there are many types of complementary therapies marketed to people with PD that have no data at all supporting their use. Always avoid therapies that claim to cure PD, as none have been proven to do so, and these are false claims. And additional research with larger and more vigorous trials are needed. But it is exciting to realize that there are many possible therapeutic avenues to explore. It is also important to note that complementary therapies are typically not covered by insurance, so they may be out of financial reach for many people with PD. Increased research demonstrating the efficiency of these modalities is the first step in convincing the insurance providers that these services are worth covering. So the power of creativity. We like to challenge those living with PD to be brave enough to try something new, to remind themselves, to love themselves, and to celebrate free expression when creating art in any form, because there are no wrong answers. So creative therapies offer the opportunities to not just live with PD, but to live well with PD. And now I'd like to try and explain our approach at Neuro Challenge Foundation for Parkinson's, which includes a better approach. And we use it as a three-pronged approach, which includes care advising, groups and programs, and education. So the care advising, the Neuro Challenge Care Advisor helps people with Parkinson's and their caregivers navigate the complexities of managing the disease by providing individualized support and community resource referrals. When we are in person, we are in 6 counties in Florida, and there are 3 of us, so we all have our territories, but we are the ones who are, as I always say, in the weeds with the PD community. We are meeting with folks with PD and their caregivers, care partners, all the time, day in and day out. We are explaining the complexities, explaining the disease, explaining how the disease can affect activities of daily living and just your entire life, which obviously involves the care partners and the whole family for that matter, not just the person with PD. But we also provide all kinds of community resource referrals in the local area. So it is not uncommon for us to provide resources in someplace in New York or Michigan. That's one of the things that we do regularly. The other thing that we do is we facilitate most of the programs that Neuro Challenge Foundation provides. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. The second arm of our three-pronged approach is monthly educational support and therapeutic programs. Like I said, we are in 6 counties in Florida when we're in person, and we facilitate over 45 monthly programs that serve people with PD and their care partners. And then the last prong is the educational component. And examples of them are a Distinguished Speaker Series, the annual symposium, and the expo. Our Distinguished Speaker Series are typically the educational forums that are provided in each of the counties that we are in Florida. And then the symposium is a partnership with Sarasota Memorial Hospital, held usually in January at the Health Fit facility off Clark Road. And then our expo is a homegrown one-day event. We have had this year, in 2021 will be our fourth expo, and it will be a little bit different since we are still in the pandemic. It will be virtual, but typically we have been at the Bradenton Area Convention Center. Like I said, it's a one-day event. Last year we had over 1,400 people, vendors, speakers, as well as audience members. And we have thought speakers throughout the day, typically 6 or 7 thought speakers from all over the country speaking about various aspects of Parkinson's disease. And then vendors are also available throughout the day, introducing their products and their systems and things like that, and answering all kinds of questions, obviously, for the audience. All of our programs at Neuro Challenge Foundation are offered at no charge. So right now, I want to talk a little bit about our virtual programs because we are not live right now. I talked about when we are live, but right now we are not live. So we are doing everything virtual. So everything that Neuro Challenge does right now is being done virtual over Zoom, our platforms. And I wanted to talk about our programs because this is where we integrate our complementary therapies into our programs. So typically We have programs of three types: support, therapeutic, and educational. And support programs, we have designated, again, this is while we're on the virtual platform of Zoom, we have designated Thursday mornings to be our virtual time. Every single Thursday morning, excuse me, at 10:30 is a support group for care partners. Excuse me, yes, at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock is our support group for care partners, and then 11:30 is our support group for people with Parkinson's. So every Thursday morning, either at 10 o'clock or 11:30, we have a support group going. But then we also have monthly support groups. We have a young onset support group that meets once a month for people 50 and usually people under 60 are encouraged to come to that group. We also have a women's support group, women with PD, a men's support group, men with PD, and then we also have combined caregiver and PWP, people with Parkinson's support groups throughout the month as well. Then our second type of group is therapeutic. And this is where specifically we have our complementary therapies. So we have dance therapies, our dance programs, we have creative programs, we have music programs. We have a weekly dance program. Twice a month, it is a partnership with Sarasota Ballet. Although we don't just do ballet, they've introduced other forms of dance as well as ballet into the program. And then 2 times a week, or 2 times a month, excuse me, we have a woman from St. Petersburg who is a PD dance instructor, and she teaches our dance class. So again, we have a dance class every single week on Tuesdays. As part of our programming from Neuro Challenge Foundation. We have relaxation, so yoga and mindfulness is held twice a month. We have a creative connections class, I referred to that earlier. Twice a month, that creative connections class has to do with writing. We actually have a high school senior who is teaching one of our writing programs a month. As part of the Creative Connections. And then the other 2 weeks, Linda Odom from Encompass Rehab, she is an expressive therapist. She does, we do sketching, we do music, we do all kinds of different types of creative activities in that class. So again, every single week of the month, we have a Creative Connections class going, and then laughter. And I want to talk highly about our laughter program that is also held twice a month. Christine Alexander is a local improv person in the Sarasota community who leads our laughter program. And it is just an hour of just plain silliness. We leave all of our stresses and any of our worries at the door, and we come in, and Christine makes sure that everyone understands you're there to have a good time. It's pure silliness, and we just laugh. And it's very improvisational, so it's on the fly. She has us do all kinds of fun activities, interacting with each other, as well as just noises and things like that. So it's very entertaining, and it's very, very therapeutic. And then our third type of program is our educational program. We have lately gone into incorporating series into this type of educational programs. We've had a March into Music series, which was 3 different sessions of all types of music and how that can benefit all of us, but specifically people with Parkinson's. We've had a mental health series. We've had an alternative therapy series. So we learned about acupuncture and Tai Chi. And then we also have educational programs as well in that vein as well. Okay, so our overall program objective at Neuro Challenge Foundation is to create a fun environment that combines learning and socialization. And what does socialization mean? It means being engaged in programs with individuals facing similar challenges, which is so empowering and helps guard against social isolation, fear, and depression. So what can folks with PD do? They can participate in activities that they enjoy with others. They can attend support groups, and they can stay engaged with family and friends. So I hope I've convinced you how complementary therapeutic programs can facilitate better living with those with Parkinson's disease. Thank you very much.